All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Welcome back. This is A Few Points from Perfect Podcast. We are on episode 10. We have the one and only Aaron Bumm, man behind the scenes, back.
We tried to run him off after the last podcast, but he wouldn't leave.
Yeah, no. Something about holding beef jerky here kept him around. And this time we're going to get into a little bit more of his professional career, a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of people noticed on my channel we covered this some in the last podcast, but you're here and then you're not, and you're here and then you're not. And so your real job, your full-time job, you are a union boilermaker.
Union boilermaker.
So let's start off by how in the world does one choose to become a union boilermaker?
Oh, all right. Well, I'll go back. When I got in, I didn't know what a boilermaker was.
I want to back up a little bit farther because he's going to skip this part. How old were you when you got into the union boilermaking life?
How old?
Yep.
My very first job, I was 17 yet.
So shouldn't most normal people still be in school at 17?
They should be normal people, but I never said I was normal.
So you got a jump start
yes.
on your boilermaking career. How can we put this? Because you got asked or were required to leave the school.
Yes, in a way to where
you weren't allowed to come back.
I wasn't coming back that year. I wasn't allowed to come back.
Oh,
yeah.
You just did too good, right?
So, exactly.
Yeah.
He did a really good job of redecorating the principal's office.
Yes.
No kidding.
Assistant principal. Yeah. yes, I did, and
free of charge.
Yeah, I didn't charge anything.
And they charged you with a few.
Yeah,
and
usually do a job.
You decided interior decorating was not your calling?
Yeah, exactly.
He also failed home ec.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I had to get married, because I ain't a very good cook. I can grill, but actually she's taking over for me on the grill too, so I really enjoy it. But
so the point of that is you say you're a couple of years younger than me, right?
Yeah.
No, hold on. Go back. What did you do to the principal's office?
I don't know if you want to tell the story or not.
Well, long story short, it got down to where he was wanting to paddle me. And, he was littler than me, which I'm a little guy.
Which is saying a lot.
You just didn't want to be paddled.
No, I wasn't getting paddled that day.
Yeah.
No, I was not.
So he took the paddle and redecorated.
Yeah. So that was the end of my junior going into senior year, and I was pretty well done for the year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew I was going to be a worker. I was going to use my hands. They were going to get.
You're going to be a tradesman.
I was going to be a tradesman.
Yeah.
I wasn't going.
Which there's nothing wrong with.
No, there isn't.
Well, we're all tradesmen here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that happened, I went ahead and got my GED, and
which is important to mention. You did
yes,
your high school diploma.
And then through Boilermakers, we ended up going through so you could get your associates.
The reason you went down the boilermaking route, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we all know you'll do that. You applied for the operators, the laborers,
iron workers, operators, union, iron workers, operators, and Boilermakers. I applied for all three, which, I'd been third generation through family to be an operator.
Right.
And I think I'd made a damn good operator too, but
probably one of, if not the best.
Exactly.
His family was, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yes, I was really wanting to get into operators. That was kind of whenever I was young. That was my plan.
But you ended up in the Boilermakers simply because they were the first ones called back.
Mm-hmm. I got a call back to get indentured into the apprenticeship in 2001 was whenever I started Boilermaking, and the spring of 2002 is whenever I got indentured into the Boilermaker apprenticeship program. I believe it was end of March. No, it's beginning of April. Beginning of April is whenever I went into the apprenticeship for the Boilermakers. And
so you got an early start as far as union life goes and all that, because you were basically in and working full time whenever most people were finishing their senior years.
Yeah, my senior year, which this was 2002. which I thought was a really good year in 2002. But you know, I made $87,000 my senior year. I made
when most of your friends are still in high school playing sports and working at the concession stand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did do that, and then did the associates, got that taken care of. But yeah, I was not a high school graduate. Graduated from Perry Central with the GED.
Gotcha.
Perry Central does the GED. So.
Right. So what? I mean, obviously the name Boilermaker is purely self-explanatory, but you guys do a lot more. What is the official job description or title of a Boilermaker?
Oh, come on. He gets a pot of water and he makes it boil.
Yeah. All right. So as a Boilermaker, no, we're not at the plants. We're not there, you know, doing operation stuff, making it run or anything, but a Boilermaker goes in, and we pretty well, you got a boiler, you got what they consider water walls, and from the water walls in to the firebox, the superheats, reheats, economizer.
And we'll get to that here in a little bit, but I mean, you guys do a lot of other things other than work on boilers as well.
Yeah, we do tanks, we do vessels, we actually do some iron work, do refineries, steel mills.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys also build ships, don't you?
Yeah, it is. It's blacksmith, forge builders. We do ship work. We got like here in Indiana, southern Indiana or northern Indiana, we have a shipyard up there that we work at.
Right out in Philadelphia, there's a huge shipyard, and I know that it's Boilermakers Union.
Yep. Yeah. So there, and believe it or not, like out like Arizona, it'd be like Arizona, Hawaii. They're all in one local together. There's like 4 different states, but they've got a big shipyard out there, which is, I don't know where exactly at, but they're always calling for manpower out there. So yeah, we do ship work. I mean, furnace work, ethanol plants, granaries, work on granaries, on bins and stuff like that, hoppers. So
I don't want to get into the debate of union, non-union. I see both sides of it. I see benefits both ways. But would you say one of the bigger benefits to being in a union is some of the training you receive?
Training's a big part of it. I mean, it's mandatory for a Boilermaker or a union trade. I know as far as Boilermakers go, I can't talk for other trades, but you know, it used to be a 10-hour OSHA, which some trades, that's all you got to have is a 10-hour, but Boilermakers went above and beyond. You have to have a OSHA 30 or better, so you can have OSHA 30 or OSHA 500. OSHA 500 puts you in safety man. You know, you got to have those 500 to be a safety man on the job, but they want you to have that 30 or better, which then you got to do the refreshers. You got the ARCS training, which is another safety course. Go through MOST, which is that's who we do. Like you got to take an annual drug test, and periodically through the year you got to take randoms. So I mean, you're always having to do that. The apprenticeship class versus union, non-union is a lot of non-union companies, and I have a lot of buddies that do Boilermaker work that are non-union. Well, one thing that they don't like now that they finally got up farther is there is no training. I mean, they grab a guy that has worked at, say, at a gas station or McDonald's or even a tire shop or something like that, and they put them straight out in the field with no training, no knowledge of what goes on. And in our line of work, it is dangerous. You're working in heights. You're confined spaces. Everything you deal with is just it's like sitting in this shop and putting it on steroids. I mean, everything's so big, it's so heavy, and they send people in to do these jobs and they don't know, and that's why the ratio of I can't really say the ratio is higher for non-union, but you got more people that are unqualified getting hurt than qualified people. Yes, you will have people that are qualified get hurt, but your ratio from qualified to unqualified, your unqualified workers are getting hurt a little bit more.
Right.
So
one of the other, and we've talked about this a little bit, and like you said, every union's set up a little bit different, but one of the other benefits, and it can also be a drawback, is technically they're out soliciting work for you. They're trying to find work. They're trying to find things to keep you busy.
Yeah. We ourselves as Boilermakers, we can't solicit our own work.
So you're 100% dependent on the union contractor to find that work for you.
Yes. Now, the past 3-4 years, I've been with one contractor, and I've stayed with them. They treat me great, so I just stay with them. Mm-hmm. But the reason on the union side, they're supposed to be out there finding the work. They're supposed to find new places to work at. They're the ones getting you work, and then they call you. You don't call them; they call you.
Right.
As far as Boilermakers go, it's still like that. Other crafts that you can go out and say you got a job going at the high school here in town, and you need guys, and you know a good guy. You can call him up and say, "Hey, you wanna come down here help us at the high school? We're rebuilding the gymnasium," and they can pretty well go straight to work. They don't have to go through the hall. They can go to work straight.
One thing I can elaborate on this topic a little bit, and me and you have some similar experiences in this same thing, is back to our previous conversation. We do some of these large stadium jobs, and I've done several more than what you have. We've worked all the way across the United States, from New York to California, worked in a lot of the major cities, and I'd say about 50% of the jobs we've done were union, and about 50% of the jobs we've done were non-union right-to-work states for whatever reason. We have worked with some god-awful unions. I mean, these people were pathetic. Mm-hmm. We have worked with some unions that were absolutely amazing. I mean, if that's the way they all operated, that's the way to go. They had it together. They sent good guys out. It was sewing machine smooth. Right-to-work states, we've had some that were really good, and we've had some that are absolutely horrible. There's pros and cons to everything. I mean, usually if you're if it's a union job, you're paying a lot higher wages, but you do get a better qualified person. Unfortunately, not all that wage gets to that person. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Non-union is usually not as high a wage, but that person actually ends up seeing more of that wage. It don't get shuffled as many different places. But it's a little bit more of a crapshoot of what type of employee you're going to have show up. So, I mean, I don't have nothing against unions, but I'm not a big union guy just because I don't get.
Your jobs aren't big enough.
Well, my jobs aren't big enough, and I get
can't afford it.
I do such a wide variety of stuff that I need, I can't do. So it's not, they have their place 100%, but it's not a one shoe fits all type deal. And if you experienced this in city X, don't assume you're going to experience that in city Y, because, and that's also probably different between each trade within the halls, from laborers to operators to millwrights to Boilermakers. They all have their own little nuances and work good and do their thing. Yeah. And I can speak from quite a bit of experience because I got kicked out of St. Louis. So,
well, I mean, Aaron and I are both union, and our unions operate completely different.
Yes.
And if I was in a union like Aaron was in a union, and if I was in a union like Aaron's union, I should say, I would have a completely different feel for it. I'm not a union person based on my experiences, which are going on 10 years of working in one. And my biggest reason is that they push up these loads on a pedestal, and then the guys who are actually doing the job, supporting the company, keeping it running, keeping us employed, we get treated and tossed aside like dirt. Yeah. And it's just a favoritism.
A lot of politics.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And that's one thing I do not. I mean, you had this. I just do not get into the politics. Yeah. I don't.
And I will say that even with my opinion, I wouldn't do away with the union, because I know that my company that I work for hates them, and they hate them for a good reason, and that reason benefits me. Yeah. They keep me employed. Yeah,
they lobby on your behalf.
Yes. Yeah. And so that being said, I'm not against them.
We're going to have a whole other conversation on unions and governments, and there's they're so complicated. There's so much more there going on.
Yeah, I do want to touch up on that subject. You were talking about like St. Louis and these places. A lot of times, you look at, it's a lot to do with, when the hall calls me and says, hey, I got a job for a small blow company here. You want to take it? Well, a lot of times if you don't know that company and you're a good hand, you're like, I'm going to go ahead and pass that, because you have the right to accept the job or turn it down. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times if you don't know the company, like I'm just going to say, like say we're in Alabama, we're an Indiana company, we're going down to Alabama. Your better hands, and that's what kind of sucks about it, because your better hands, they're not gonna jump on board and say, hey, let's go, let's try this, because they don't know the company. They don't know how they're going to get treated. They don't know if they're going to try to take all the breaks away from them. They don't know if they're going to have tools or, stuff like that, which that kind of hurts a smaller company coming into an area for unions, because usually you don't get the better hands. It's pretty well they're trying to man it with whatever they got. Right. And another thing is when work goes on, like say like Georgia, they were building the new stadium, and then they were tearing down the old stadium. Well, most of your hands are going to go straight to that new work. New work's always better than dirty work.
Well, and to agree with what Aaron's saying, on these stadium projects, if it was a non-union job we're going to go do, and on these stadium jobs, I guess I should probably say we would have anywhere from 30 people to working for us. On some jobs, we had as many 300 people working for us. So some of these were very, very, very large, very high-profile jobs we're managing. And so to Aaron's point, we're going into, I'm just going to say city Y, and we know it's going to be a union job. We will go there and make several trips and start building a relationship with the BA and the officers at the hall, and try to, hey, here's all of our references, and start playing the politic game to get good guys to come over. And it's a follow the leader guy. You get one or two good guys to commit. They're like, well, if Aaron's going over there, it must be worth going over there. So John will come and Bob will come, and on down the line. If it's a non-union job we're going into, we just call the workforce development, whoever the labor guy is down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to be said about getting 300 people who are non-union to actually come to a job, show up on time, and do the job.
Well, in some states, you're better off to have 300 non-union guys show up, and in other states, 300 union guys will show up. It's crazy how much it changes from region to region. That's one of the things that I've been kind of surprised with a little bit. I feel like I have enough experience working union, mostly on these stadium jobs, and then we got a joint mutual friend that has a very large dirt contractor that's union. Yeah. I mean, I understand how it works, and I see the benefits of it. I also see the cons of it.
Yeah. I mean, you got good and bad both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, anybody that sits out there, whether you're union or non-union, can agree to that. You got good and you got bad.
And I guess a little bit of background on my take on it is we're not a hall.
Yeah.
We're hired into a company and represented by a union.
Yeah.
And our seniority is dictated by the union, which dictates our overtime and our bumping rights. And that can get frustrating because you get guys that do nothing sitting in a spot, and they're protected to sit there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. And at the end of the day, if our company goes under, we don't have a hall to go back to. We all lose our jobs.
You're just out on the street.
Yeah, so to me, it's just we're all in this together. But the guys who feel entitled because they were born before me, they're gonna run this place into the ground, and we're all screwed.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, kind of touching up like on that, we come out of a hall, and it's gonna go both ways here. But good example. I wanted to, before I forgot about this outage I was just on. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was running night shift, and all our work, it always seems to happen, like our outages, our turnarounds, or anything we have, it usually happens at the same time. So usually, say the
reason for that is you're working on powerhouses.
Yes.
And then the spring and the fall, the demand's much lower.
I need to state that. Yeah, because it is because you get the spring and the fall where your temperature, you ain't got your air conditioner running, you ain't got your furnace running as much.
Yeah.
So the demand for power isn't near as high. That's why they all do them at that time. But it seems like they all start the exact same day. And, at the hall, which I got to give them credit, they do one heck of a job. I mean, getting guys dispatched and finding help. Because a lot of times we'll go through our 1,200 members in a day. Mm-hmm. And we're needing another 2,000 members. And, you're calling other locals. You're trying to find the manpower. And then you get it. And then, for instance, on the job I was on night shift. I had 4 guys that were out of my local. that was it. The rest of them were boomers. What we call boomers are people that are outside of our local, from whether it be Alabama, Florida, Texas. But we get
how
guys.
many man crew did you have?
I had a total, counting all crafts. I had not a big one. I'd say probably 35 total guys on that job. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a real big night shift.
That don't sound like a whole lot, but if you got 35 guys spread out,
I hate trying to manage 5.
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's 35 guys in one spot on the assembly line is one thing. 35 guys out doing 35 different tasks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of management.
Yeah, it does. It becomes a headache. But like day shift, there was probably 500-600 guys, but they were doing a lot more work. But I ended up getting, and you always got in your head. It's just like when we do a stadium, because you get these guys in, you don't know what you're getting. You've never met them before.
Yeah.
And I got these guys in. I had these guys from Alabama. I had one from Pennsylvania. I had from Pittsburgh. Had a guy from Pittsburgh.
Right away.
And believe it or not, I was kind of shocked. I mean, he did a really good job. I can honestly say that them boomers I got, the travelers, they were excellent. Usually the travelers you get are the ones that ain't the best hands, because they pretty well get picked out. But our trade of work is kind of dying down. It ain't as much as it used to be. So. Right. We're kind of a hot area right now in Indiana. We're a big area where the work, we still got a lot of coal fires going yet.
Right.
So these boys came up from Alabama, and then we had, like I said, one from Wisconsin, one from Pittsburgh, but all of them did a heck of a job. I mean, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And I went a little above and beyond the Happy Meal and went ahead and got them Strombolis, but they did one heck of
sausage.
Huh?
Pepperoni or sausage?
Sausage. It was sausage, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the difference maker.
Yeah. But yeah, they all did a heck of a job. Finished the job up, on time, early, and they ended up getting a week less than what they got called up for, but they were all happy. So but yeah, that kind of gets back to what's nice about like Local 374. I mean, they do a heck of a job. Now, there's some other locals that don't do as good, and you hear people complaining, but I ain't got no complaints, because they do their job and they get guys here. It's just, basically now it's just finding more work to where you can keep the manpower, your man hours going for your local.
Right. And before you do that, but to just clear something up, when you're talking about boilers now, you're working inside power plants. Coal-fired power plants, electricity plants.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I was getting ready to go with this. So your bread and butter jobs are the boilers.
Yes.
And so I'm going to give just a quick overview of this, and we're going to go back and kind of walk through the system. But for a lot of people that don't know, the majority of the electricity generated in the United States is from a coal-fired power plant. And basically they burn coal, they heat water, turn it into steam. Turns a turbine, which turns a generator, which makes electricity.
You mean to tell me that this is not all from windmills?
No, it's not all from windmills.
Are you sure?
So that's where the term boilermaker comes from, is because you guys would build and maintenance the boiler, and the boiler is a high maintenance item.
Yes.
So let's just kind of walk through this a little bit, because I got a lot of questions, and I've asked you a bunch of questions. I understand the concept of how it works. You heat water, you make steam, you make electricity, boom, it's all over. But it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
So I guess like my first question is like, obviously a boiler has a service life. Like you can only burn so much coal in it before you got to do maintenance stuff. So what a lot of what you guys do, like spring and fall, is what they call a scheduled shutdown.
Yeah.
Correct? So like what is like just your generic average shutdown? Like does it happen on a unit every 2 years, every 5 years? And then whenever it does happen, what do you guys do?
Usually a lot of it has to go with the age of the power plant. You get in your older power plants.
Which most coal-fired power plants have, 25, 30 years age at least?
Yeah, so they're all getting there. Most of them is you can pretty well plan on an outage every year, one outage every year. A lot of places...
Scheduled outage.
Scheduled outage, yes. Scheduled outage would be anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks usually is what it shuts down, and it's usually running 6/10s to 7/12s to do the outage, do whatever we got to do for it. It just depends how much work they want to do. But so basically, the plant I'm working at now, it's got 2 units. It's got unit 1, unit 2, let's say. So this one here, we're doing an outage on unit 2. So we'll do this outage in the fall, unit 2. Then usually the following spring, you go back to unit, say 1. You go to unit 1, do an outage there. Then in the fall, which would be a year, you go back to unit 2. So it kind of bounces back and forth. But your newer plants, they always, I would, and beyond what we do, we work on the boilers, but you know, the turbines, I can't say too much about. I know they have to be very well balanced. You know, your fans and stuff like that, which we do work on the fans, but every year you're guaranteed to have some sort of outage, whether it be boiler work as far as inside the boiler or outside as far as a fan or a turbine, that it'll come down every year, so they can do a maintenance outage on it. Basically, it might just be a 2-week outage, and when they do have them, we go in and do sample tubes. You know, we'll go in and just cut tubes out so they can check the thickness of the tube, or they can scope to make sure the inside, make sure it ain't getting.
So let's kind of just do let's just do an overview of the parts of a boiler. So let's walk through from the very beginning. So the coal comes into what was it called, like a firebox?
Well, the coal comes in off the conveyor belt, goes through pulverizers pretty well. It's
turns it into a powder.
It turns it into powder, and it's pretty neat because it's got like little cannonballs in there, and they're shooting them cannonballs, which crush up the coal into a crush the coal up into a powder. Okay. So it's like a powder, and it shoots out your burner. And
so they inject it with a big fan.
Yes, yeah, it's pretty well pressurized in, and then it shoots it in, and then once it shoots inside what we call the firebox, which is where the coal gets shot in, the burners will ignite it, and then it burns that coal dust in there.
Right. So this firebox, your average coal-fired power plant, how big is this firebox?
Well, I'm just going to throw rough numbers out. I ain't measured completely, but like say a 450 megawatt, you're going to be probably, I want to say let's just say 50 foot by 85 foot.
So that's like twice the size of my shop is this firebox. I mean,
and then
we're not talking some little bitty old yard shed here.
Yeah,
you know, we're talking.
No. But then you go to like a 1350, which is there's several 1350 plants. Now you get in there, you can fit a football field. I mean, it's like 300 foot by 340 foot by 150 foot.
Right. So this whole area you're talking about, we're calling the firebox now. What's the temperature they're trying to achieve in this?
Temperatures, they range. You know, of course, the higher you go, the hotter it's going to get. So the grade of metal, which starts out at like a mild steel, and as you go up, the chromium gets higher. It gets to be a harder metal. The higher you go, because it gets hotter. I want to say, you know, you're pushing. You know, I'd say they push probably about 1,200 degrees roughly.
That's pretty warm.
Yeah, it gets warm up towards the top, and that's why most of our work is up higher in a boiler.
I'd have to be in shorts.
Yeah,
I don't think that's approved from the OSHA conversation.
Yeah.
So we're blasting coal in down below in this firebox. We're igniting it. We're building heat. So up above, is that where all the tubing and superheats and? I mean.
Yeah, like we did a superheat change out, which is your superheat is your steam, but there's still got a little bit of water going through it. So you got your superheat steam, and the steam, it goes through your superheats, your reheats into the economizer, but what it ends up doing is it feeds out into like your steam drum. From the steam drum, that's where it kind of goes to your turbine to give the steam to the turbine to actually turn the generator.
So I mean, the process of making steam is pretty simple. Is you have this heat rising from this fire you got down below. It's heating the pipe. The pipe's heating the water.
Yep.
And then basically
converts the water to steam.
Well, the water's pressurized, correct?
Yeah.
And that'll keep it from boiling. So as soon as it leaves the boiler and becomes unpressurized, because that's when it actually turns to steam.
Yeah. And then the steam you're getting pretty high pressure in there, anywhere from. I mean, some of it could be some places it's, you know, you're only pushing like say 800-900 pounds of steam. Other places it's up to 3,000-4,000. It just depends on where you're at, what plant you're working. Yeah.
So is the most common issues in the boiler the tubing?
In the boiler, yes. Yeah, and majority of our work is always on, it's, kind of explain it, it's like a bunch of tubes. And all them tubes are just kind of like a sleeve, a water jacket. You know, the actual housing of the boiler. It's all tubes just tied together. Them are kind of like a water jacket for it. And then you get up to the superheats, that's where you're actually working. You're actually, your superheats, then it goes, which are closest.
So basically it's firebox, tubing, superheats. So we're stacking a layer up inside this building.
Yes, yeah. Well, like here, your superheats are vertical. They hang different ways. You can have a horizontal panel, you can have a vertical panel. And the one we just did was a vertical hanging panels. So you got your superheats, and then you got, I think it's, you got your inlets and your outlets, then you go to your reheats, which are your inlets, intermediates, outlets, and then it gets to the back pass, which is the economizer. So it's a big system of, basically what it is it's just circulating water, and whatever water is left, just gets recirculated in, and then the steam pushes out to the turbine. So basically you're trying to make steam, and it's like anything else. It's if anything left over, it just kind of recirculates back into the system.
So on a typical outage, you're not going in and replacing every tube, every superheat. You're going in, I guess you said it's like spot checking them. Why would they lose? I guess they lose thickness from all the heat. They just
the wear and tear. Because the pretty well, like say the coal that don't burn, and the coal that's circulating in there, it's like sandblasting them panels.
So it's just because there's a tremendous amount of airflow in there.
Yeah. There's a lot. I don't know the airflow going in, but yeah, just the force on the.
So you got this fine dust and they're flying around, just
it's like sandblasting
it out, so it eventually wears them down.
And then you'll get what we call clinkers, which are basically where fly ash, burnt coal that's fly ash, it kind of finds a spot on a tube or a panel and it sticks. Well, over time it just keeps building up, kind of like a stalactite in a cave or something. Okay. And it builds up. Well, that'll put wear on that tube in that area.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it'd be protecting it.
It does in a way, but then it'll put wear on it. And a lot of times we don't do it. They have blast companies come in. Whenever they get so big, they'll bring blast companies in to blast all these big clinkers off. So it's pretty neat to go in there and
I always want to know who named them clinkers.
Yeah. Yeah. Now some of them clinkers have got to the size of a Volkswagen. I mean, they get that big in there.
Like a Beetle or a bus?
Well, some of them as big as probably a bus.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So that thing fell off there, it could do some damage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why on the safety part of it, before we can even go in a boiler for an outage, we've got to either have blast companies come in, or we got a water jet company that comes in with the big, I don't know how many, I mean, it's just like a pressure washer on steroids. It'll do some damage, but if they can reach in, it's like a 20-foot gun on it, and they'll blast them with water. If they can't get them like that, then they got to find a way to get in there and dynamite it. But we cannot legally, or I shouldn't say legally, the plant will not let us go in until we get everything knocked down. Mm-hmm. And we got to do that from what we call OB ports, which are observation ports. So they're little like 4-inch circles, where you can see in the boiler, and that's where you got to blast everything off.
Where you get everything clear.
Yeah.
So that would be, basically a scheduled outage. You guys would go in, cut tubes, check thicknesses, replace what needs to be replaced. There's also a lot of other things as far as like duct work. You guys work on the duct work a lot.
The duct work. You got duct work running off your fans, going to your air heaters, which your air heaters basically turning the hot air down. It's cooling the hot air to where it can go out. So that's what the air heater does. But you got your air ducts. You got wind boxes, which is basically like a wind tunnel. I mean, that's where your draft's going through. We got all the duct work for that.
Now, in recent years, you guys have also ventured into a lot of the emission stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is, what do you call it? Is it SCR?
SCRs, which is a catalyst system, which it's set up. An SCR, best way I can explain it, some of them are cloth material that look, basically it's like a vacuum filter. But it's a big box. It's like say 3 foot by 6 foot and then about 4 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And it just looks like you look down in them and it looks like just a vacuum cleaner
HEPA
filter.
almost.
Yeah, it's just a big filter.
And that's to clean the exhaust coming off the burner.
Yes, before it goes out the stack. Then some styles, it's all metal. The older styles, it was like just layers of metal in them. And it's like static electricity. It catches all your particles before it catches them and they drop instead of going out the stack. Then you go on to, which the SCRs, what's pretty neat about it is there's like layers. You'll have a first layer, like a first floor, you'll have 30 of them SCR boxes in there. And then you have a second floor, it'll have 30. Then you have a third floor, have 30. Then you have a fourth floor, have 30. Well, when we do an outage, usually every outage, they'll come in and they'll change a roll out because they get clogged, just like a filter, and they'll change them out. Which then once they come out, they got to be wrapped in plastic, and then they got to be loaded up and shipped off.
They're basically considered hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste thing, yes. So then we got to wrap them, and then we got to ship them off, and then we'll do like one level each outage. So say we do level 1 this outage, and the plant makes a call which one they want to do. They say, well, level 3, which your first level is always going to get more than any of them. But say level 3 is getting bad, so they may jump from 1, skip 2, go to 3, and get it out to try to get their worst ones out.
Right.
First. So, and you may be doing it to where you're changing first level out two outages in a row. But that's kind of what we do is we just go in, we pull them boxes out, put the new catalyst boxes in, and then it's ready to be fired up.
Now, as far as going out the exhaust side of stuff, so you're leaving the boiler, you're going to the SCR, and then you go into the stack, which is the smokestack scene. And you guys, if there's any maintenance to be done on the stack as far as the steel work, grading, that's all your guys.
We got to do all that.
Because you've sent some pretty cool pictures over the years, up 150 feet up on these smokestacks.
350, 400 feet.
Working on these things. So once the steam leaves the boiler, how much do you guys have to do the rest of that system?
Once it leaves, mainly we got, the boilers are our bread and butter, but once it leaves, pipe fitters got it from there. Basically it's through piping. We've got it for the first weld outside, which is usually about 6 foot outside the boiler.
And then it basically does a trade switch. It goes
to a different, it's a trade switch.
And that's what Matt does, right?
Yeah,
He's a pipe fitter.
Matt's a pipe fitter. He does all that. And when they're behind or they can't get help, Matt's really good with working with us. He'll have us come out and we'll help them do like their jobs. Mm-hmm. Like a good example is they got what they call these IKs, which are soot blowers, and what it is it's a shaft that enters in the boiler, and it's like a clean system for it. Not like I was talking about them clinkers that grow on these tubes. Yeah. Well, that soot blower goes in, it shoots usually steam out of it, air or steam, and what it does is it goes through and it just goes like this, and it'll have little holes in it. In that pipe, and it shoots that air, and what it does, high pressure air, it goes through and it cleans them off, comes back.
So it's like a self-cleaning oven.
Yes, exactly. It is like a self-cleaning oven, but like he was short-handed, needed help, so then we went and helped him hook the IKs back up, the soot blowers hooked them back up, and both flanges up.
So basically, I guess the pipe fitters get it to the turbine, and then from there it's the millwrights?
Then it goes to millwrights, And different companies, different plants, some plants have their own people that work on them. Other plants, it's just the millwrights out.
Everybody always talks about the boilers and how dangerous they are, this, that, and the other, but that turbine is probably the most dangerous piece of equipment in that power plant. Yeah. And you've got a few stories of how dangerous that can actually be.
Yeah, it wasn't in Indiana, but they had a plant.
So first off, explain maybe a little bit of what the turbine is and what it does. So basically, it's just a big boat propeller in a tube.
Yeah, it's a huge, basically, impeller.
So would you say the average plant's 6 to 8 feet diameter?
No, about 12. On average, like a 450, I'd say it's probably that propeller in there is probably close to 12 foot.
And 12 foot. We can only assume how much it weighs. I mean, it's a substantial piece of iron.
Yeah. Now they're iron?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yep. They're hardened steel.
I would have thought they'd be titanium.
Yeah. Now, they probably do make titanium, but the older plants, they were all hardened steel, hard surfaced. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they had an accident one where it wasn't well balanced, and it's.
Do you know? I have any idea what the RPM would be on this? I mean, it's.
Oh, we were talking, and I was asking somebody what were they saying in general.
I remember we were having, you were texting somebody. I was thinking it was like 1,200.
Yeah, it was like 1,200, but then they could, it's a
Ramp it
broad
up
reach.
and slow down.
It's just like a truck. You can run it pretty well as hard as you want, but it's got its limits. It's got a red line on it. I'd say, maybe pushing 5,000, 6,000 is about where they would want to run.
Think about that. You got a 12-foot chunk of steel that probably weighs 50, 60 ton, just guessing minimum.
Yeah.
I want to know what the tip speed is on the wing.
You got a pretty serious little operation going on inside that too.
Yeah, and they had one I don't remember where it was. I kind of do, but it's not. I want to say where it's at, but anyways, it wasn't balanced right, and I guess it shimmied loose, and it actually shot out, blew the whole, basically the metal housing that's around it. I mean, it just blew it apart and straight out, and I forget how far they actually.
Yeah, it went right outside the building.
Yeah, it went and shot straight through the wall and out and down, and it went for a good ways.
It was just on a road trip, man.
It was.
Just going to head off down to the road trip.
Did a little off-roading.
I guess that's job security.
Yeah.
But again, that's the millwrights.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't ever get a mess with them. We may help them if they're short-handed. They'll call us out, kind of what we call them permit, and we'll go help them. But yeah, you get into the thousands, the 100,000s, and a bowl maker 1/4 inch. That's close enough.
Whole new measurement terminology.
Yeah. Them really big little numbers. We just don't get into them.
So I don't think one thing a lot of people may not realize is whenever you go past the power plant, there's always a stack that's got this white smoke coming out of it.
Everybody thinks it's smoke,
and it's not smoke.
That is not smoke. That is just the steam.
That's what they call the cooling tower.
Cooling towers.
So after the water has been heated, turned into steam, it's passed through the turbine.
Yeah.
Basically,
it's like a relief, like a pressure cooker.
Basically, all they do is pump the water to the top of this thing and let it free fall down through it. They have air at the bottom of it that goes up through it. Especially if you're putting this water back into a body of water that has life animals in it, fish.
Yeah.
You got to make sure it's cooled down to make sure it don't because the hot water don't have any oxygen in it.
It's the cooling towers, and that's one thing. Everybody always sees them cooling towers and thinks, "Oh my, look at all them emissions going out. Look at the pollution."
It's just water.
And it's all it is water and steam. It's all it is. So yeah, and a lot
it
of
really
people
is a cloud factory.
Yeah.
I mean,
because what you don't see is the pollution.
Yeah.
And that's usually out of your smoke stack, not a cooling tower.
Which is the one that, if you look at it, don't look like there's anything
it don't
coming
look
out
like
of it.
anything's coming out, but the cooling towers make that clear. It's, usually the cooling towers are some sort of stack. Mm-hmm. And people think that it's the pollution. All that is steam. That's released steam. The water in a cooling tower, it's got like shelves that run down through, and it's kind of like a waterfall in there, I guess you could say. And the water just gets pumped up, and then it goes down through. And so all you're seeing is steam in that.
Right. I did some quick math for your impellers.
Turbine? Yeah.
So if it's 12 feet in diameter and it's spinning at 1,200 RPM, at the tip of the impeller, you're going 513 miles an hour.
I'll trust your math.
I'm trusting Google Math. But
Yeah, so that's why it did clear through that building and take off down the road or off-roading.
So that's kind of all boilers still kind of operate the same, but that's basically what we talked about was a cold fire plant.
Yeah.
Now you, like in our area, I know we have one plant that runs off wood chips.
Yep.
We have some that run off natural gas.
Yep.
You've worked on some nuclear plants.
Yep.
What's the differences between the wood chip, the nuclear, the coal, the natural gas?
Yeah, they got a line of them. Well, of course, we got coal fire around here, so I'm all for the coal fire plant. You got coal to gas, which what they do instead of burning the actual coal, I don't know how they do it, but they get the gas off the coal, out of the coal, and burn.
Which is supposed to eliminate a lot of the emissions.
Yes. And then I guess once they get done, they just basically pump the coal back in the ground. But it's another emissions control. We don't work on much once they get built. We're on a scheduled outage. We get lucky if we go in there for once every other year.
Because the burn is so much cleaner. There's not that dust in there flying around.
As far as like the panels inside them boilers, they don't get the wear and tear that a coal fire does. So, Yeah, it's like a coal fire is kind of like job security for us, but a coal fire produces 10 times more megawatts than any of these other ones, besides a nuke. A nuke is the only one that's cleaner, but if a reactor ever overheated, then you have like what happened in Japan. You have a big
You have a problem.
So yeah, you have problems. So I can see why people wouldn't want to go to nuke, even though nuke is probably the cleanest source of power you can have.
And those boilers, once they're pretty much built, they just run.
Yep. Which like Texas had. They had one down in Texas. Is where I went down.
There's one out in Pennsylvania too.
There might be.
I do believe there is. I can't remember exactly where it's.
We Googled it one time. I want to say there was like 12 of them in the United States still operating.
Yeah, and they still talk about building new ones, but I don't know if they ever will. But yeah, your nuke is probably the cleanest, and as far as megawatts per unit, it's going to put out as much as coal. But coal, a lot of people don't realize how much power, how efficient with power coal is.
The heat, the BTU on a unit of coal, well, far supersedes a lot of the other.
Yes,
and it takes less of it to do the same thing.
Exactly.
This may not apply to a lot of people, but we always talk. We live on the river, and a lot of coal goes up and down the river.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of these power plants are located on the river because it's a water source for their boilers, and they can get the coal in. And it's a pretty regular occurrence. We'll see coal barges just pass each other, one going up river, one going down river, and not all coal is created equal.
Nope.
A lot of the reasons why they pass each other is because of the sulfur content.
Yep. High sulfur, low sulfur.
Which high sulfur burns much hotter, but it's also a lot dirtier of a burn.
Yes.
So a lot of the coal that comes from out west is low sulfur. A lot of the coal from the east is high sulfur. And they'll basically blend them together to get that happy medium from one to the other.
Because we got a lot of high sulfur coal around here. Now, in order to burn it, you have to have what we talked about, the SCRs. You also have to have bag houses. A precipitator was another. It basically was metal curtains hanging, and what it would do is it would catch all the particles, just like the metal SCRs. It would catch all the particles before it go out, which before that's all these power plants had was a precipitator, and then that was it. Then it was straight out the stack, air heater, precipitator, then out the stack. But now you got your bag houses, which are basically like a cloth sock that goes over a sleeve, a metal cage, and you put it in, and it helps trap
stuff.
Yes. So you got your bag houses, then you got a SCR, which or the SCR we talked about, but you got the scrubbers, which is an absorber. Basically what it is, big tank, and in that tank, it's like a slurry. So everything gets fed through this slurry, and that slurry, which they use it for drywall, it's gypsum.
It's basically ground limestone.
Yeah. And what it does, it kind of catches everything, and then it comes up through the water, and then it goes out, goes into what we call the outlet duct, into the breaching duct, into your stack. So there's a lot. They have done a whole lot to keep these coal fire plants to go, because in a big picture, if you can clean it up, and which you're never going to make it perfect, but if you can clean a lot of the pollutants up out of it, it really does keep a lot of people working.
Well, and not only that, it keeps our energy bills down.
Yeah, it keeps the energy bills down. But you got a lot of jobs that rely off just coal alone. It's to me, it helps keep the economy going. But so you got your coal fire, you got your nuke, you got your coal to gas, which burns the gas off the coal. You got ethanol plants. They're doing these ethanol boilers like your corn burners.
Really?
Yeah, they're basically burning, using the mesh, just like I guess a distillery.
Isn't that what the millennial farmer feeds?
They make actual fuel, like vehicle fuel, though.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was.
Well, same thing.
Same process.
Yes,
they're just using it for something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you got them, your natural gas. You got your natural gas, but a lot of things with natural gas is you get these companies that natural gas, the price fluctuates so much. And you take a company, your local company, like we got Southern Indiana Power, if they were running off gas and all of a sudden these natural gas prices high.
Yeah, they can't adjust their rates fast enough to overcome it.
Yes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but what a lot of like Hoosier Energy around here, they'll have multiple coal-fired power plants, and they'll pretty much run flatline consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And if they get a spike or a jump in demand for electricity, they'll bring 1 or 2 natural gas generators online to cover that spike. And then as soon as the spike or the demand's gone, they'll cut them off and just go back to running off the coal-fired plants.
Kind of like a engineered redundancy.
They got like the little peaking units, Hershey units that are gas powered, and basically all they are is they're just to do what he's saying right there. So they got a spike, or say they have 2-3 units go down, emergency. What we call an emergency outage that we have to try to get fixed. Well, when they ain't got that power, before they go to another, say Indianapolis Power and Light, before they go to another out contractor, they can fire them peaking units up and keep their power going. And then once they get the boilers back up and going, then they can slowly bring them back down to where they're basically like a emergency unit.
So I'd say one of the more unique setups around here would be the paper mill across the river.
Yeah.
And they produce a lot of their own power using some of the waste byproduct of
the coal chips.
The byproduct of the paper chips, which is the byproduct of their paper making process. And you've worked over there on that boiler a few times.
Yeah, I was over there. I will give them credit. The smell ain't the greatest. Gets pretty bad, but them sour and chips. But that is probably one of the cleanest boilers I've actually worked in.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is spotless. Now, they have.
And why is that? Because the wood chips burn so clean?
I have no clue, but it was real clean. It was real clean. Now they have several different boilers over there that they got what they call a licorice boiler.
Is it black or red?
It's pretty black. It's pretty nasty. Now that is pretty nasty, but I don't know much about them. I've never worked on what they call liquor boiler, but like the wood chip ones that they burn their wood chips in. You go over like there, and I don't know much about these either, but they got like their good chips that they use, and then they got their reject chips.
I'm sure there's different just like chips. Well, just like wood, I'm sure there's different grades of chips.
Yeah. And pretty well they take like what they don't use to make paper or cardboard boxes or whatever they're making. They use that to burn in there, and it is. I guess maybe it's just being that it's wood, but it keeps it so clean in there. We go over there, but yeah, they got a couple, like at the paper mill, they got a couple different boilers, and they're self-sufficient, and they just keep rotating them around, running them. And
I think that's also one thing worth mentioning. Like we got a couple aluminum smelters here, we got a couple foundries here, and a lot of these things use electric furnaces to smelt their aluminum or their steel. And they use so much electricity that nobody can provide it to them. A lot of them have to build on-site generating systems to do that.
Really?
I think the only one that I know of that's not like that is Wapaka. And they're only allowed to smelt certain hours of the day whenever basicwilly the demand on the line is less from everything else going on. But like Century and Alcoa and all those guys, Willamette, which is the paper mill, they have their own powerhouses on site. They produce their own power. Which is one reason why a lot of that's located here again, is because the access to coal and the water,
right?
Which is the river, which gives these guys, a trade and a job.
Main thing, that job.
Do you think that it's still viable for somebody interested in potentially having a career to get into boiler making?
That's a good question.
That is a very, very good question. As I've been in 18 years. So I've been in 18 years, going on 19 years, and what I've seen just in our area, the shutdowns of coal fire, and we lose a lot of work. If we lose the coal fire, we're losing a lot of work, because that's, like we were talking, bread and butter for us.
Right.
Around this area, Southern Indiana Power, we've lost two coal fire burners, and they're talking about.
And you got several more scheduled to come offline.
Yeah. By 2028, I think there's only going to be 2 powerhouses out of say 12 that are still going to be running by 2028. So that's the only scary part. Which they're at the same time.
It's probably worth mentioning that. The answer to this. We have the largest, or one of the largest coal-fired power plants in the country.
Yes.
It is about 15, 20 minutes from here.
Yep.
It's a beast.
It is. It's a big one. It's the one you can put a football field in.
Right.
Yeah, and neat note that, like they told us that, you know, they're like, well, if your coal fire stayed going, would you ever build any more of this size? And they said they would not. It's not feasible when you have emergency outage. You're losing all that power off of that one unit.
Yeah, they basically, instead of having 2 massive units, they basically said they'd be better off having 5 small units.
Yeah, 5 small ones.
Which makes sense when you think
about it.
about it.
Bring them on and offline a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yep. But it is neat actually going to get to work there. That's another real nice. I like working there. It's a nice place too.
Right.
But kind of back onto the subject of the power sources. I want to get to this, but I'm not a fan of windmills or solar farms.
Which ironic is 15 minutes from his house is the largest solar farm in Indiana.
And the reason I say that is because I have no work on them. We do no work on them. But no, I mean, I like the Clean Act, even though you're not putting out the megawatts at all.
Right. Well, when I was looking at the nuclear plants in Pennsylvania, I just read that they shut down a nuclear plant after 45 years because there's not a big enough push for clean energy.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the 3 Mile plant in Pennsylvania was shut down in 2019.
So they're taking all my good hunting ground away.
Apparently.
Clean Act. Oh man.
Well, no, because there's not enough interest in the Clean Act.
Yeah.
So they shut down the nuclear power.
Yeah, because that would nuclear plant is
clean, just
cleaner.
like you said. Yeah.
What I don't know the facts on this, but they said a nuclear is cleaner than a solar farm, as far as the batteries.
I could believe that per watt created.
Yes,
yeah, for sure.
Because the solar panels, you got batteries. I mean, they were just huge battery packs.
Yeah.
But any of them explode. I mean,
well, it's not even explode. They have a shelf life. It's the same thing that's going to plague the country.
You got to get rid of it.
Well, then eventually at some point, once it runs its course, you're going to have to dispose of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with these electric cars that they're pushing now. It's not a problem now. It looks great now, but in 15 years, 20 years, when these lithium batteries are
junk. there's junkyards full of them.
Yeah. What are you going to do with it? It's hazardous waste.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put it? What are you going to
Exactly. Yeah.
But we do have a little bit of everything here.
We got windmills.
We got windmills. We got solar. We got hydro.
Yep.
The count
hydro
is and one I don't know the exact numbers on this. Somebody can Google this, but they spent way up in the millions of dollars building this hydro plant over there. And it's pretty small, like 5 or 10 megawatt.
Yeah.
I mean, like nothing compared to like a 50 or 60 megawatt coal plant.
Right.
450.
I mean, so the amount of power generated per dollar spent on a coal plant is incredible. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing too is raw material going into that.
Yeah.
I mean, is it viable? Is it a good option?
It was at some point, it's just a PR stunt. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I know that those are decisions that are made by people who are supposedly much smarter than us, and to their credit, usually they are. But it's a question I would have.
It's a very, very, very legitimate question. So, but I don't know if you fully answered the question of would you encourage somebody to become a Boilermaker today?
Yeah,
we've had several conversations about this, and
let's push this off one more time. Yes.
But your thought of it is you do see the trade disappearing, and you think you'll be absorbed by another trade, basically.
Yes. What I see in the future, if we lose all these coal-fired plants, they don't have no work. Say nothing else gets built that we can actually go do.
Right.
I could see us getting absorbed in with like a pipe fitters would be the closest trade to what we do. I could see pipe fitters absorbing us in. And basically that gets into the politics and the money part of it, if they can afford to, because it's just like we got a pension and annuity as our retirement package. We don't have a 401k. It's just like there, I see the ups and downs to both sides, but basically they're all tied up in the same thing, stock market.
Right.
Your pension, your 401k, no matter what you got as far as retirement goes, it's all tied into stock markets. But it would be, I know it's a lot harder than this, but one of the main things is they have to buy our whole package if they would buy us out.
Right.
Next trade would either be like iron workers / millwrights.
Yeah.
Would be something compatible to what we do.
And I think to be clear, we're not discouraging somebody
no,
who knows
not
that they want to. This is what they want to do. They've
Yeah.
done this for 5 years. I'm talking about the guy.
Aaron's a testament that he's made a damn good living doing.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, it's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, the hours I've worked and I love it. I just myself, I would feel bad pushing somebody into something that's dying.
Right. I'm just talking about the guy who's not sure what he wants to do.
Yeah.
I guess you could say, do you think it would be worth his time or her time to look into this field?
If I was unsure what I wanted to do, and I knew for a fact I was wanting to try new things and see if it works. If it didn't work, it was no big deal.
Yeah.
I would definitely go for it.
Because another question is, majority of the work you do or you've done is welding.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
welding. You told me at one point, how many arc hours do you have under the helmet?
Oh boy, I'd hate to guess. I'm starting to lose my eyesight now, so I ain't been putting as many on.
Right.
I think I put more on in this shop than at work.
Yeah. I mean, you had
He
said
comes here to
before
practice on his welding.
Yeah.
it was like 45,000 or something.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Arc hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
So
experience.
from pretty well the second period, when I was second period apprentice, which was my first year, welders were a huge item. That's what we needed.
Right.
We needed welders, and we couldn't find them. So, I took what we got as Common Arc, which you'll have all your contractors. You may have 20 contractors, you may have 40 contractors. They all come that one day, and you take a weld test, and then they all can go in, they can buy off on it, check it off. They check from fit
So
up
it's
to
basically an
roof.
addition.
Yeah. And they check everything out, and as long as they like it, they check you off, and then they bend it. They do a bend test. They cut strips out of it, they bend it, make sure it don't break, and if it don't break, it's good. If they don't find a void in it, you're good.
Well, I think the reason I say that is because you've made a good career with a good living, getting a lot of experience in an area of expertise that I don't care what clean energy push they do, you're never going to get rid of welding.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try to make robots do it as much as you want, but you'll never fully get rid of a talented welder.
You won't.
Just as looking at it as a potential stepping stone, even.
It is. It would be a great. It's somewhere even if it would die out, okay, and you get it absorbed in. If you got in now and something like I said would happen, thinking the worst, and you would have to go to another trade. You're in. You're going to go to that trade.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing. It's not like you're going to not have a job.
Right.
You're going to have somewhere to go, and I got like these young guys I've been taking in. Well, now that I'm getting older, I like working with these young guys. They can be the strong back.
Does that make you feel old?
Yeah, it is. It is starting to make me feel old. But yeah, I get with them and I tell them it's a great career.
Right.
And but I tell everybody, keep your options open.
I know two people. One person I still talk to. They are titanium welders for the aerospace industry, and they're paid $95 an hour, and they set their own schedule. They do whatever the heck they want because they're good.
Yeah.
Talent. It don't matter what trade you're in. Talented tradesmen are getting harder and harder to come by. Whether it be an operator, laborer, carpenter, welder.
Right.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the point that we've made before, is that no matter what you do with technology, you can make a robot do this job. I don't care, but you can't make the robot think the way that the guy who's been doing it for 40 years will. And especially if you have
experience.
Yeah, if you got a guy programming the robot who's never done this before.
Yeah.
Here's
the thing. We get on the subject of the robots. They have them, and they try them. Orbital welders.
Yeah.
A lot of the welds we do are in tight spaces. They can't get the robots.
Exactly.
And they try to find a robot that can work, but it's so tight that we can't even get back there to do it. We do it, but it's like what I'm trying to say is it's so tight to where it takes a guy on one side and one guy on this side, and you got to help each other to get that tight weld.
A friend of mine, he's not allowed to share anything really of what he does in his field, but he sent me a few pictures of his equipment.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a TIG torch that's 4 feet long.
Yeah.
And it's got a pencil tip on the end of it, and he's using that with a camera.
Yeah.
But you can't get a robot in there.
Yeah.
So.
And a robot, a lot of times you'll have trap slag, you'll have porosity.
Yeah.
It just can't pick it up like an individual
Well,
can.
it can't adjust on the fly like you can with your eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because if we're having a problem, you can back up and get it. A lot of times you deal with this older metal, and a lot of times you'll get welding it and it'll want to fall out on you. It just wants to disappear on you. Well, you can adjust that computer. It just keeps going. and
Right.
they don't realize, you got to have somebody there running it. You got to have
Yeah, I
somebody
mean,
watching
it's completely different than welding up an excavator boom in a factory. Where
production line
it's much more
environment.
controlled.
Yes.
This is not nothing like that at all.
Yeah, but they have brought, we call them orbital welders, they're computer robot welders, but they have brought them out, and they are trying. It's just they're not having the best of luck with it.
Yeah.
Out in the great wide open, on a pipe that's out here, nothing around it, they can set that big computer up on it, and they can do it there. But tight spots,
Some of those things always crack me up, and like, well, a robot can weld it faster. Not necessarily if you consider the setup time. The actual weld time maybe less.
Yeah.
But how long did it take you to get that thing to actually strike an arc?
Yeah, the 3% of the job.
Yeah.
They can do faster, but the rest of it, forget it.
Yeah.
And that kind of plays in whenever people say, well, you should have brought an excavator to the job. It would have been faster. Yeah, it would have been faster for that 5-minute project. It would have took me 3 hours to get it here to do that little project. In the big scheme of that, it's probably why you're not in business, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
Big picture. You got to see the big picture.
Yeah.
I guess we're getting ready to wrap this thing up, aren't we?
We're about an hour and 5 minutes into it.
Yeah, it's a hard trade to kind of explain.
Yes.
I mean, I picked your brain about this a lot of times, a lot of things. One thing I'd want to kind of end on here a little bit is with the trades, and I always tell this story. Whenever I was a junior in high school, I'm a huge. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge advocate for the trades. Skilled tradesmen is something that's went away in this country. I don't know why. I'm very passionate about the trades. I don't care if it's
back.
I don't care if it's a bowl maker. I don't care if it's a laborer. I don't care if it's a carpenter. I don't care if it's a pipe fitter. I don't care what it is. A trade's a trade.
Bowl makers are the best.
To an extent.
I'm going to ignore that. So anyways, whenever I was in high school, which was junior in high school, so it would have been 22 years ago, and that's whenever computer and technology was really taking off, really becoming a big thing. And if at that point in life, at that point in the world, if you were wanting to go into the trades, you were looked down on. Like, why would you want to go do a dirty job? Why would you want to have to get your hands calloused? Why would you have to get your boots muddy? And I didn't get it then, and I don't get it now. And I had a principal, and he said in our junior class meeting, if you're not striving to go to a 4-year college involved in a school sport or after school activity, you're not going to waste of space in this school.
I would like to point out something that my wife is a level 4 neonatal ICU nurse with an immense amount of schooling, and I believe that she should have that schooling.
Oh, yes, I agree with that 100%. But what I'm trying to say is it's not for everybody.
Well, I went to a technical high school, and then we talked about this. I went to UTI, and I make more than her.
Yeah.
So I'm not bragging or anything, and I'm not saying I'm smarter than her by any stretch.
But I want my doctor and my nurse to go to a 4-year college.
Absolutely.
So,
but it's not the only option.
Yeah. So where I'm going with this is this principal said that. Everybody should be going to a 4-year school basically. And boy, it pissed me off.
Yep.
I just got my ass up and walked out. I said, "The hell with you, you son of a bitch," because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew who I was, and that wasn't it. And I was perfectly fine with that. So over the course of the next 2 years I was in school, this continued to be a hot button topic. And if you guys know me well, whenever I'm passionate about something, I don't back down. And I don't give a crap who you are. I don't care if you are the principal. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to be persistent enough. You're going to listen to my ass. And I finally told him one day, I said, listen, I don't care how fancy or how elaborate the world works. You're always going to need somebody to build you a car. You're always going to need somebody to fix your car. You're always going to need somebody to build your house. You're always going to need somebody to unclog your toilet. I said, and you're going to need somebody to pick your trash up. If there's somebody in this school that wants to grow up and strives to be a trash man, you should support his ass. Because if he goes to work every day and he's happy and he does a good job out and he's proud of what he did, who gives a crap what the damn title is?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so with all that being said, and times are changing, the trades are becoming more of a acceptable thing again, I guess.
Because they're realizing that you can't run the world from an office.
But one of the last things I told that guy before I left, I said, if the world keeps going the way it is, and if I become a skilled tradesman, in 20 years I can name my price because I ain't going to have no competition. Nobody's going to want my job. And here we are 20 years later. And you know how in high demand a skilled tradesman is?
And you're naming your price and you're booking out till next year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't price gouge. I don't do any of that stuff.
Right.
But
I was thinking I was going to get a raise.
No. But people are willing to pay a premium for my service because it's a skilled trade.
Yeah. And
same thing with what you were talking about as far as people out of the halls. The good guys are few and far between.
Yeah.
So the point of that conversation is, if you have interest in the trades, don't let it, I mean, if that's what you're passionate about, follow your passion.
Yeah.
It's because we need the tradesmen just as much as we need the computer programmers, the doctors and nurses and the lawyers and everything else. So my rant's over. We can end now.
Yep.
Oh, now we can end. Would you like to rant? This is your episode.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what, I've actually been in a great mood today.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because you got to see me for the first time in about 2 months.
even though I had to lie, like I said, I had to lock that GPS in and try to locate it's been so long since I've been out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, no, I agree. I agree 100% with the trades. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I've worked every aspect I could think of, from laborers to pipe fitters to operators to, I've worked in all of them. I love them all. But would I trade it to go to an office job? No. Everybody's got their own thing they're going to do.
Everybody's got their talents.
Yes. I mean, there are people that don't want to get dirty, that don't want to do this
And
or do that.
there's nothing wrong
There's
with that.
nothing wrong with that.
I don't like getting dirty. That's not a lie.
We'll get you used to that.
No, I do my job well and I stay clean.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, that's one thing. I enjoy it. I enjoy being out here doing it. And back to that, yeah, I mean, I would send people that way. And I mean, it's a start.
It's something to look at.
Makers, they can look at it and do it for 5-6 years, see what you think. You don't like it, I mean, there's other trades to go to. There's other options. So, yeah, I mean, I would send them that way. If we're needing manpower, I'd definitely send them that way. I do know that the apprenticeships they're taking Boilermakers like crazy right now.
Right.
So, yeah, it would be something that'd be something to look into if you like that line of work, welding, rigging, high rigging, being around equipment, stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sharing what your real job really is.
Yeah.
We get a lot of questions of that on the channel. 'Cause
Yeah.
you come and go and disappear and emergency outages and schedule outages and different things. So, but like that's a wrap, guys. As always, we'll probably catch you on the next one.
Yeah, it's been episode 10. Few points from perfect. Leave a comment with suggestions, questions, concerns. Send us an email.
Did you say 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give that a 10 then.
Yeah, you can give us a 10. As always, our email, a few points from perfect at yahoo.com. And thanks for listening in.
Thanks a lot.
See you guys.